Hello everyone and welcome to the Snowsport Scotland Backcountry webinar, Explore Backcountry. If you tuned into the live webinar, you'll notice in this recording a few changes. We had some technical glitches and have re-recorded a couple of elements. This is a 4-part series which aims to bring inspiration to those interested in trying backcountry snow sports, offer education on how to safely enjoy the backcountry environment and answer all your backcountry questions. These webinars are delivered in collaboration with leading authorities in snow sports guiding and backcountry safety, Glenmore Lodge and the Scottish Avalanche Information Service. In the first webinar, Explore Backcountry, really wanted to give insight into Scottish backcountry and thought the best way to do that would be from those that know it best. We have a number of Snowsport Scotland backcountry ambassadors presenting their thoughts and experiences of being in the backcountry. You can see in front of you the agenda, which is quite full, and I'll move to introduce our ambassadors in due course. But first, to highlight Snowsport Scotland's interest in putting on these webinars, which is quite simple. We are skiers and snowboarders who enjoy the backcountry. As an organisation, we want to represent Scottish backcountry snow sports. We believe it's a fantastic environment to share, learn, challenge, and enjoy. We very much see people as part of this picture and hence have moved to engage with those who are out there being in the Scottish backcountry with the aim of us then communicating, sharing, educating and supporting that scene. It is our aspiration to highlight what a great opportunity we have on our doorstep. I'm now pleased to introduce our first ambassador of the evening, Eliza Mckenna. She grew up skiing in Aviemore and became national GS champion before switching to snowboarding, where she competed in snowboard cross and GS before transitioning to halfpipe, for which she is perhaps best known. Competing in X Games, ISF and World Cup, she became the first snowboarder to qualify and represent Britain at the Olympics and did so at 3 games. Now working as a manager and coach developer, she has passed on this extensive experience managing the GB Park and Pipe team for the last 6 years, in which time we've seen Brits competing and winning against the world's best. Between all this, Lesley has always been one to hike to score turns, whether that's away on her travels or around her home in Aviemore, and we're really delighted to have her here as an ambassador.
Hi, thanks for the introduction, Ewan. I'm very happy to be here as a Snowsport Scotland Backcountry Ambassador, and I'm very happy to be part of the first webinar in the series. What does backcountry mean to me? Well, what can I say? I think that there are so many positives about being in the backcountry and lessons that you can learn from your experiences in the backcountry that you can take into other areas of your life. And for me now, after having spent many years and been lucky enough to have many amazing opportunities all over the world and in different locations of backcountry, different kinds of backcountry environments, I'm really looking for the deeper meaning that I can get from learning in the environment, and really looking for that collaboration between me and nature and the environment and the weather and the day and the place I'm at in my life and the place I'm at in terms of the location, and how those things come together to really offer me up something unique every time I go out in the backcountry. I guess it's a bit like a snowflake. Each time is different. Each shape is beautiful in its own way and has a deeper pattern, if you like. And what I mean by that is, I mean, if you want to use the science side, there's the idea of, action, perception, coupling from ecological dynamics, which is our theories about learning skills, where you are in harmony or collaboration with your environment. But I think it's maybe even something deeper than that idea. So to me, that collaboration is not just a reaction or a set pattern that produces a likely outcome, if you like, but something that's a bit more like a musical harmony, if you like, whereby each day is singing its own song. So if I wake up one day and I feel brave and I feel like I need a bit of excitement and my body feels like it wants to take on something a bit more challenging, I'm going to see different things. I'm going to look for different things in the environment, and therefore different opportunities are going to pop up to me, and I'm going to be ready to take those and also more ready to learn the lessons that those kind of experiences can give me. Whereas if I'm feeling more mellow and maybe a bit contemplative, I'm going to see different things in the environment, and the way I want to ride or ski in that environment will be more conducive to that level of reflection, that mellowness, that search for calm or serenity. So I think that's the special thing about the backcountry and the deeper meaning. The way that those experiences can come to life is in the next level of interest, I guess, for me, a bit like the energy or the archetype that's coming out of the experience, and how to communicate that, how to talk about that with others. What does that mean in terms of how others are experiencing the same environment? What does that mean in terms of how others are experiencing a similar archetype or energy? And stories that really relate to the land have a lot of resonance for me in this area. For example, in Scottish culture, we have a character called Beira, Queen of Winter, or the kayak in Gaelic, who is mother of all the gods and goddesses, and she made the land by dropping boulders out of her apron and smacking them with a large metal hammer to create the valleys and the lochs and the rivers and the glens. And she brings the storms and she brings change, and she's really the archetype of struggle, or struggle not in the sense of difficultness, but change and transformation, learning, if you like. And I think that's such a powerful metaphor for your experiences in the backcountry, because really to challenge yourself and to learn something new, there's going to be an element of risk, and any element of risk involves some sort of struggle. Even if it's not an arduous struggle, you still have to make a decision about the safety, about the route, about where you're at in your ability to take on the day, what you want to take home from the day. And that will change you. It'll also change the environment. You make your mark on the environment, hopefully not in a bad way. You paint your line, you create your turns through the snowpack, and you move on with something new as part of that changed environment. So those Indigenous stories, I think we can really find resonance through and in with our experiences if we reflect on them and what they mean to us personally. So yeah, I think this can go as deep as you want it to, and really is a different way of looking at what you can get from a backcountry experience, and then how you're able to take that into your everyday life in terms of what you look for really affects what you see, and what you see opens up opportunities for action that you can then reflect on your readiness to take. So yeah, what backcountry means to me: learning, traveling, wandering inside and out, growth, transformation, all of these things that basically bring meaning to your life, and a context for learning and growth and community, connection, the things I think really matter.
So really great insights there from Lesley. I'm now pleased to introduce Hannah Bailey. Hannah is a passionate award-winning photographer, journalist and communications specialist who's been immersed in the underground scenes of action sports, adventure and the outdoors for over 10 years. Born in Edinburgh, Hannah has travelled the world to document women in action sports, and her work has been recognised with awards from the Women's Sports Trust and Campaign magazine, and her photos featured in media such as Vice, The Scotsman, ID, Dazed, Asian Geographic, Women's Fitness. Instead of focusing on the sports, it is the free-spirited players and heroic characters that define the worlds of action sports and the outdoors, which Hannah feels most passionate about. Her photos and projects aim to show the real faces and stories of those involved in the culture, which she pushes to take to a wider audience to inspire others to join in and make the scene more accessible to all. She's currently based in Avonmore and works on an array of projects, including for Patagonia and Protect Our Winters UK.
In the past, I did a few seasons in Europe, and very much a season air type, and ended up over in British Columbia doing a season. And I was in Red Mountain, which is interior BC. And being there is where I came across the side country. And I was following locals in Red Mountain. If anyone's been there before, there's 2 mountains, there's 3 lifts. Really, you're accessing the side country. And through the people and the locals there, they gave me the initial understanding of what snowboarding meant to go beyond the piste. And as soon as I went there, I thought, this is where I would like to be. It's a further connection to nature. It was learning with the people around me. I was so fueled by it. When I got back to Europe and I actually started working in the snow sports industry, which I was very lucky to get into, it introduced me to a lot more people who then expanded kind of my knowledge and understanding on the sport and where it could take us. And my first kind of foray into the backcountry was going over to Morzine and going out with Tammy, who's part of Mint Snowboarding. So this is another person who I was able to learn through. As well as that, kind of joining up to do a course, a backcountry course of Mint Snowboarding out there. I wasn't someone who had, been born with, no one's born with just the experience and the skills they need to go in the backcountry. So I think it's about finding those people that can give it to you, whether that is a course, whether that's people in your local community, whether that's the Facebook group, whether it's doing these events like this. And I think that's so important. So I went out in the backcountry with her and Mint Snowboarding, and Tammy also introduced me to splitboarding. This was about 5 years ago. And at first it was understanding how to set up the gear, what you need in your backpack, what you need to take into account. And, there was a lot to it. Even just getting the split board ready was kind of more challenging or more tiring than the actual uphill. But as soon as I went out on a split board for the first time 5 years ago, I thought, this is what it's about for me. This is why I love snowboarding. These are all the best bits of snowboarding that in one, without having to worry about the people, or it just beyond connected me to nature. And I thought also the slow way of traveling, the fact that you're in a group, that you're traveling together, it's so satisfying. And the downhill is just part of it for me. Really, I love the uphill as much. So I've been really lucky to be out touring around Austria, been to Lofoten, Japan. But really being in Scotland and being back in Scotland and touring around here and getting to know the area through the people here is where I'm really fueled to go, and I'm really fueled by it. And I think we all are here. And it's amazing to see 100 people out there who are also interested in it. But I think it's really important to note that the journey to the backcountry is important. You don't just pick up a snowboard and you go straight into the backcountry. You have to learn through the people, you have to learn through the courses, you have to learn through whatever method that people is key. And really knowing your limits and knowing your motivations, that's been really important for me. Taking the slow way, it's what splitboarding is about. Enjoying the views. It's not necessarily going to the biggest mountain, but if you go into the next slide, Ewan, just a wee reminiscent view. I mean, this is what it's all about. This is a hike that me and Lauren from Protect Our Winters and Anka, who's a German outdoor journalist, we did in Lofoten. And it was a small fjord kind of tour, and it was just the most amazing view, and it was kind of all right snow, and we took absolutely forever to get to the top. And we were with a guide that day who really could not understand how we could talk so much, but that's what it was about. It was about connecting together. We were talking about the touring, we're talking about our touring, but we're also talking about our kind of passion for splitboarding and projects and creativity. And there's just so much that you can get out from a tour, but you don't necessarily have to go to the highest mountain. The hike up is a good time to chat, I think, and I do like to chat. Next slide. So it's another cheesy quote for us all. I don't think you can get through a whole presentation with me or any chat without me mentioning Nan Shepherd. And I'm sure there'll be a few people nodding that, all right, Nan was going to pop up at some point. To aim for the highest point is not the only way to climb a mountain. And so this is like my motivation. And I think this is really important. And I think a lot of people maybe are put off going into the backcountry because they think, well, that mountain's too big and I don't know how to use an ice axe and I'm scared of this, or I'm not equipped. And it's like, yeah, you can get yourself equipped, but you can also just think about, well, where do you want to go? What is your motivation in the backcountry? For me, it's, I'm maybe not talking to the people out there that do go and throw themselves down the iciest gullies, maybe are out winter climbing. And I totally respect you, and I think you're absolutely fantastic. I'm in awe. But for me, I'm really fueled to highlight the accessibility elements and, you know, snow sports for good and getting us out there and making it possible for more people to get in the backcountry. And I am so fueled by the fact that people powered adventures, the fact that splitboarding, you power yourself up, it's up to you. You can take in the view, you can slow down, you can connect with nature. That side of it is my motivation. So it's not necessarily the highest mountain, but it could, you know, if Craig Ellicky had a good amount of snow and a good way up, that would be brilliant for me. I'd love that. Just kind of hike up for an hour with your friends and enjoy the snacks at the top. So I think it's really good to think about what you'd like to get out of it. And if it is just connecting to nature, then that's a really great way to do it, or to slow down, or to appreciate the view, or to get somewhere on your board, on your split, on your skis that you wouldn't be able to get to by foot, or you wouldn't be able to get to that view by a chairlift. And that's really fueling. I think I have another slide there, Ewan, maybe one more. Something just a bit eye-catching to distract from my video. So yeah, I think that it's really great to kind of look around and see what people are around you and start your journey by that, because the people in my journey have been absolutely key to helping me get equipped for the backcountry, and they've made me realize like what I want to get out of it. And it isn't maybe the highest mountain and the steepest drops. It's about connecting with them and being creatively fueled by them, and just connecting with like-minded adventurers. And I think that's really possible in Scotland, and it's something that we have a lot of potential to do, and it's what makes the backcountry so special and such a great way to connect both with people and with nature. And you know, joining a camp, if you don't know the people, is a really great idea. And me and Lesley are going to be working on some camps together, so just a little plug there. And obviously you've got G2 and you've got Glenmore Lodge, and there's just so many potentials to just get started. But all I can say is just start your journey, because it's going to be the fun bit. And that's me.
Yeah, that was really fantastic. I think you just summed up there at the end for anyone, regardless if they're new to backcountry or they've been doing it for a while. I think start your journey is just a great way to sum it up. And I think I said at the top, for us, really, backcountry is about people in the landscape. And I think you've talked really eloquently about that, and the idea of the journey being alongside people and being people-powered adventures. And I think for those that are new to the sport, that's really something to look to have those people, surround yourself with people perhaps that can help equip you and show you the ropes. But for those that are experienced to be out, I think we all appreciate that just having someone alongside or a group of you just can make a day, really, really can. So thanks very much. Okay, I'm going to head to technical difficulties. Okay, great. And yeah, I'm having some technical. It's going to happen. Bear with me. It's all gone. Here it comes. Okay, so next up we have Amy, who I'm just going to try and unmute. Where are you? There you are. And I'm just going to read out your bio. So Amy is an instructor who works between the French Alps and the Scottish Mountains. Amy teaches all ages and abilities, coaches freeride, and takes ski touring groups out into the mountains. Freeride skiing was her route into ski touring. As it turned out, walking was the best way to reach the more remote lines. In 2015, she was part of a ski film project in Scotland called Late, which was her first real introduction to the Scottish backcountry. Now working with British Freeride, British Backcountry, Glenmore Lodge and Elsbrigham, Amy guides ski touring and co-delivers coaching courses in and around the Scottish resorts. And it's really great to have her on board as an ambassador. So Amy, over to you.
Great, cool. Thank you guys for having me, and thanks Lesley and Hannah. That's led on really nicely to what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I think Ewan's actually got a little film clip, hopefully, if technical difficulties don't interfere.
Okay, yeah, so Amy's really pushing my technical skills here, so bear with me. Amy's asked to play a little video from, see, I've already messed it up, from Red Bull, who I'm sure are kind enough to be totally happy about this. So I'm just going to try and share that here. I'll try and put it on full screen. There's a lot of us on, so hopefully it's going to buffer through, but I understand it's just it's just a couple of minutes, isn't it, Amy? So I'll just press play now.
Minute, yeah.
Okay.
Thinking that I can do it and I just need to go for it. Because like, I think that the biggest thing, fear is really important to stop you doing things that are dumb sometimes, but other times when you know you can do something, fear is just in the way.
Fear can be both positive and negative. I think fear with an understanding of what you're doing is good. Fear with a total lack of knowledge is debilitating.
Yep. Just make sure you're off the jump and then you throw it. Off the jump, throw it, and commit.
Fear will make you question your decisions. It'll make you analyze everything to take those risks safely. And if you have enough knowledge and enough understanding of what's happening, you can overcome that fear and go for it.
3, 2, 1, dropping. Commit. Commit. Yeah! So perfect.
I didn't end up doing the biggest backflip or the best backflip, but it was such a cool feeling just trying it.
Okay, so now we have the issue whereby I just stop that and bring it back. Okay, all good?
Excellent, great technical skills there, Ewan. So I guess that was just a little introduction to what I wanted to talk about. That was a film with Nat and Anna Segal, and it's actually a great movie if you are interested in what I'm chatting about. It's called Finding the Line, and it was these girls, their big competition and freeride free skiers, and they went out and shot a movie about fear. So when we started the ambassador thing with Snowsport Scotland, they asked me to tell them what backcountry meant to me, and we were sort of like in the middle of summer. And when actually I think about the backcountry and going out into the backcountry or taking groups out there, my overriding feeling initially is quite often anxiety. And I think what the mountain guide in that little clip summed up there, he said, fear with an understanding of what you are doing is good, and fear with a total lack of knowledge can be debilitating. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that, because I think that the backcountry can actually maybe be quite an intimidating prospect to some people. And I thought it was worth chatting about that and showing that, like, people who have had lots of experience working in these environments or going out there daily do still experience quite a lot of anxieties about going out there. And obviously there's been a lot of work done on pressures and stuff that come up when you're actually out in the environment. But what I wanted to talk about more was what you feel before you actually start something. And I liked how in that little clip we saw Nat, who's an amazing skier, big freeride skier. She's skiing in huge competitions, and she's still experiencing a lot of fear about doing something. In a backflip, of course, like I'm not talking about doing backflips right now, but everybody experiences a bit of fear. So hopefully this is going to kind of summarize a few things to do with that. So I mean, when I think about the backcountry, like I said, in the summer months I'm a bit out of practice, and I feel like once I get to the end of the season, I get to springtime, my confidence kind of peaks, and I'm sort of getting in the groove, and I'm getting the feel of the snow and getting my experience going, and everything feels a lot more comfortable. But I think at the beginning of winter, if you look up to the Scottish mountains in particular, they can seem quite a sort of impenetrable environment for you to get into. And actually, once I get moving, once I actually get myself out there and find myself walking and skinning, and I'm actually in the environment, I feel that the mountains kind of map out in front of me, and I'm able to start reading them in a way that allows me to travel through them. And sometimes to get to that point can sort of be quite difficult, especially if you're back at home and you're nice and cozy on your sofa or whatever. The actual idea of getting out there into the cold can feel like, oh, I'll actually just stay here with my cup of tea. It might actually be a bit more comfortable. So, but once I get out there, I can be able to read the terrain, and that really just comes with building experience of being out there and getting time out in the mountains and learning from people. As Hannah was saying, like, you can build up a lot of experience from just being around the people who are out there. And I think, like, as also what Lesley was saying, you start to build a relationship with the place that you're in, and that really helps to kind of make things easier and get yourself out there. And so if you're looking out into the mountains, you're thinking, oh, I don't know if that's the place for me, it actually gives me quite a lot of anxiety or fear, then I think it's just getting over that kind of first hurdle and then getting out there and really just building experience when you're out and about. So I just kind of wanted to have a little think about what fears that I have. And when we were talking about what the sort of content of these chats would be, I started to brainstorm a bit about what fears other people might have as well. So personally for me, when I think about going out into the backcountry, like I said, when I'm nice and cozy at home, I actually get quite a fear of being quite cold and uncomfortable. Like, I don't really want to go out there and get all cold and feel like I'm, you know, out in a sort of cold environment, and actually staying at home feels like quite appealing. And then another fear that I get when I'm thinking about going out into the backcountry is a sort of imposter syndrome, which I'm sure other people experience in other like walks of their lives and in their careers or in their activities that they do. But I get a fear of maybe the sort of anxiety of like, do I actually have the skills to be guiding other people? Do I have the ability to meet their needs of what they need out there, the support that they might need in the backcountry? And especially like if the snow's been falling and we're having, you know, the opportunity to go out on a really good weather day, and everyone's getting really amped up about like the snow and everything that's going to, like, the possibilities of the next day. I actually get a lot of fear about being responsible for a group, maybe friends, or like being around other people and finding myself potentially the most qualified person in that group, or potentially just being able to feel like I can speak up about how I feel the conditions are. So there are a few fears that I definitely get myself, and I don't know if other people maybe get them. You can maybe wave your hand if you feel like you've had something like that in the past. Fears that other people might be thinking about as well, like you might have an anxiety about picking up an injury, or maybe not keeping up physically. Like, as you can see in like some of those pictures we've had before, like it's a physical environment and it requires you to like get out there and really like, you know, push your body physically. And you might have a fear of like your ski technique not standing up to the snow or the conditions of that day, or maybe like potentially the not making the most of the day. Like maybe you're worried about like wasting your time or making the wrong plan or going to the wrong area, and maybe a fear that other people actually realize, like maybe if it's something new to you and you've not actually been out in the backcountry yet, you're worried about maybe other people realizing you don't actually know what you're doing. And I think that's something that a lot of friends, like I've spoken to about this, I said, what's your fear? Like, what do you actually fear when about backcountry, or do you have any anxieties? I said, yeah, I actually worry about people realizing that I'm not as experienced as I look or as I am. So people worrying about maybe just looking a bit foolish. And then I think that kind of leads into the intimidation of maybe the scene. Like some people I've spoken to have said that the scene is quite potentially intimidating to people who've maybe not tried it before. I think a lot of ski movies or media, everyone's faces are very much covered. Like you have goggles on, you have your helmet on. So when you see people dropping into these lines, or they're just kind of walking up the mountain, you actually don't get an opportunity to see their face and maybe register that they are maybe a bit like withdrawn, or maybe a bit like, oh, I'm actually feeling a bit nervous about skiing down here, or, you know, you don't actually get that opportunity. And also, like, if you maybe haven't got into backcountry yet, you might not have the kit that you think you ought to have, or maybe you don't feel like your knowledge is up to the bar, or, you know, you're maybe just feeling a bit underprepared and you don't know how to kind of move into getting out on a regular basis, you know. So those were the kind of fears I like brainstormed together. And then I was like, well, how do people combat this? Because it must be a big thing. I mean, I feel it myself, and I know a lot of my colleagues do, and I know a lot of my friends do who get out and about regularly. So I had to think, and I was thinking, like, well, when it comes to getting out there, actually, when I'm feeling cozy at home with my cup of tea, I never regret a day in the mountains. Like, I never regret getting out there. I never come home and think, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I just stayed at home all day watching Netflix or whatever. So there's never a regret for me getting out into the mountains. The next thing I sort of thought about was, well, there's a lot of things you can control, okay? So if you can control the controllables in your environment, which might be, it might be your technical ability. It might be something like, maybe I need to improve my downhill ability and get myself practicing different techniques that will help me to deal with different snow conditions. And that can be achieved just by going to the ski resort and getting just off the side of the piste and having a little jump around in difficult snow conditions. It might be the physical aspect, maybe just getting your fitness to a level where you feel like, yeah, I'm fit enough to keep up with these people. It might be the people that help you get there. Like Hannah was saying, you might need to arm yourself with some friends who are able to support you and help you, and find those people who you feel inspired by to get out with. And then knowledge, and that's kind of what these webinars are for. Arm yourself with as much knowledge as you can, but ultimately you've got to accept that things will go wrong, and I mean, that's just learning, and that's about getting out there and finding that, you know, have experiences in my own like ski touring career of hiking up and dropping a map and it skating off all the way down the mountain, never to be found again, ending up on the top of the wrong summit, which did happen to me at the beginning of my ski touring career, and realizing that the hut I was looking for was on the other mountain across the way. And things do go wrong, and that's absolutely fine. And you know, like, I'm sure everyone who's had experience in the backcountry has had things go wrong, and it's fine. You know, that's just what happens, and that's the adventure. And I think if we go back to that little quote from the film, he said, fear with an understanding of what you're doing is good. So the more you can experience the backcountry, the more you can build up knowledge, and then you start to be able to direct your fear in a way where you are able to figure out what's a good fear, what's a rational fear, what's an anxiety that is worthwhile listening to, and then what's a fear that's actually just something that's holding you back, and that's actually irrational, and maybe you just actually need to push through it, and you need to get yourself out there and just experience it, and you know that that's just you yourself holding you back. And so ultimately, it's all about sort of finding a balance between trusting in yourself, and when that fear starts to become an awareness of the environment, that's when you can really push through and have these amazing experiences, and really connect with the environment. So that's all I had to say. I hope that's been helpful for anyone who's had any worries about getting out there.
Well, Amy, I have to say, I thought personally that was really great, and I've got to thank you for being just so candid and open. I think we've probably all experienced some anxiety out in the backcountry, or have anxiety about going into the backcountry, and I think you're really right in just talking about kind of getting moving and getting past those first hurdles. But you're also, you highlighted, you know, that's an aspiration with these webinars, is really for our ambassadors and yourself to share experiences, in the hope that helps kind of put some of this in context for people and lets them unpack it a little bit. And I think your strategies there at the end there about just trying to unpack your fears and you know, sit and think about what they are and how you can act on them is just really valuable. I think that's really great. So thanks very much. That was really great.
Great.
Okay, good. Oh, I've lost my cursor. Oh, okay. So yeah, we're going straight in. So next up, we have Kev, and he's a full-time outdoor instructor based in Aviemore and guide, backcountry guide with G2 Outdoor. That's probably the most active splitboard guide operating in the UK. His experience in the very challenging conditions Scotland offers is insightful. Kev is always keen to share knowledge and thoughts, and I'd welcome a day out in the hill with him, and it'll probably help if I unmute him. So, Kev, are you there? It looks like he's in G2 headquarters.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you.
It's not exactly G2 headquarters. It's it's in the shed in the back garden. So, but it's, yeah,
Fantastic.
it's working. Can you hear me okay there? Yeah.
Yep, sounds great.
Yeah. So thanks very much for the intro, and thanks very much to the other ambassadors there. So really good inspiration and knowledge, and the emotional side is really good. I definitely recognise some of those fears of being responsible for people, and the imposter, what do you call it, imposter syndrome as well. Like, am I meant to be here? Am I good enough to be here? I think a lot of people working in the outdoors get that as well. So my background is working in the outdoors, teaching navigation as an outdoor instructor, guiding people outdoors year round, but in the winter I do it on a split board. So I can take skiers out as well, but I'm on a split board, as I'm much better on a board than skis. Maybe it's helpful just to know how I got to that point. So I started snowboarding in '95, which is 25 years ago, but I didn't come from a ski family. I grew up in Glasgow, and when I could, we just hired boards and came to Cairngorm and threw ourselves down until we learned how to ride. And then when we became instructors years later, 10 years later, they took us apart, they ripped us to pieces and made us ride properly after that. And then eventually, as an outdoor instructor, I became a winter mountain leader. So that's where I get my mountaineering experience from the climbing that I used to do, and the winter walking I've done a lot. And eventually sort of brought it together as a ski mountain leader, which is one of the qualifications, which is now the backcountry leader, which you can do through Glenmore Lodge and Snowsport Scotland. So it's another way to get into that path to take people out. And through G2 Outdoor, I work for those guys year round, and I now take people out on split boards in winter. So there's about 3 or 4 years of seasons taking people split boarding now. So and it's just starting to kick off as well. So this week we've been out on boards. I've already taught a course. This is a bit of my course here. So minimal conditions on Saturday. We were going up at Cairngorm Mountain, a little bit of navving, a little bit of avalanche practice, a little bit of transceiver work, a lot of skinning up the hill, and just a bit of navigation as well. So really finding out what the clients really needed on Saturday, and a couple of trips out for ourselves as well. So the season has kicked off, and there's still snow out there, but it's quite high, but we can definitely get out. My section for this was guided by conditions. So it was a bit of my bio that Ewan found really useful, really insightful. So guided by conditions is what I'm talking about. So it's more about the practicalities and making good decisions, making safe decisions out there. And the following seminars coming up, webinars coming up, we've got Andy Townsend, we've got Mark Diggins from the Avalanche service. They'll go much more in depth into the safety, and I'll just touch on a few things there that are kind of very useful for people starting out in the backcountry or people who are already there. So at this time of year, lots of us are getting used to how to work in the outdoors again, how to work in the winter mountains again. So we're getting our head into the avalanche forecast and the getting uphill and getting all our kit together and making lots of little mistakes so that eventually we get better and better throughout the season. And we're we're up and running really well by spring, just in time for summertime. So every year you're refreshing your knowledge and your practices. December's a really good time for all of that. I love the backcountry. I love snowboarding. I love skiing. But when I'm out in the backcountry, there's a really good picture of just last week as well. When we're out there, you make the decisions. You know, we make the decisions where we go. Right or wrong, we make the decisions. So we have to be guided by the conditions that we find out there and the conditions that we've seen before we arrive using the forecasts. When you're on the ski hill, all that decision making is made for you. You follow a piste that's been groomed and is patrolled, and there's help there, and there's food, and you get dragged back up the hill again, and you do it over and over, and it's great fun. But the thing I find really satisfying about backcountry ride and ski touring off piste is taking control, getting out, and being guided by those conditions that you find to find the best snow. Especially in Scotland, when the snow is not always there, it's not always powder everywhere. You know, we have to find the snow quite often, and sometimes you have to cross minimal conditions to get to the good snow. But unlike the ski areas, obviously they can't move and we can. So we can look at the conditions and choose a route and choose a place, drive around the country, try different sides of one mountain range to try and get out and find the best snow. So you get it on days like that as well. It's a good picture from out the back at Cairngorm. So the previous picture back there was a real cloudy day last weekend. If you skip back to it for me, Ewan, just for a second, just to illustrate it. Those two photographs were taken no more than about 100, 200 metres away from each other. You might just make out the summit of Cairngorm in that photograph, but that's to illustrate that once you leave the ski area, you may only be 100, 200 metres from a ski lift. You still need to know how to navigate. You still need to know how to assess the danger there, because you can't really navigate very well, can't see very well. Whereas on the next day, it's a really clear bluebird day, and you could go further without so much knowledge, just because it's a much clearer day. There's three things that the other guys will probably talk about a little bit more, and it's how to make a good decision. You consider the conditions, you consider the terrain that you're in, and you consider the people you're out with as well. And that's what makes backcountry really satisfying for me, because you're always being aware. You have a lot of awareness of what the season's been doing so far, what the forecasts are saying, and then when you're on the hill, what the conditions are like compared to those forecasts. Remember, forecast is just prediction of the future. So sometimes the weather and the avalanche forecasts don't quite match up what has happened that day since they put the report out. So, you know, in the terrain, we can choose how steep we go and which aspect we go onto. We can stay away from places that are terrain traps, that if you're getting into backcountry, you understand these terms. They'll talk more about them later, I'm sure. You can choose the right shape of the mountain in terrain, and choosing your terrain gives you a really good day. You can avoid avalanche terrain in Scotland if you choose wisely, if you know what you're doing. So we have to get more knowledgeable to help with that. And then the conditions, obviously, you get that from the forecast, the avalanche forecast. But it's the wind, it's the temperature, it's the snowpack, it's what the snow is actually doing out there when you're there. So you have to pay attention to the conditions. And the third area you have to pay attention to is your team, is you. So how are you feeling? How are your partners feeling? You know, are you being open and honest with each other? How's the kit performing? Are you with a skier and a snowboarder? Are you with a skier and a snowboarder with snowshoes on? So you're going to be going at totally different paces. You know, has everyone been out before? Has everyone got the experience to navigate or look after each other? Has anyone split their board when it's icy before? That kind of thing. So, and then that changes throughout the day. The conditions change throughout the day as well. The people change throughout the day. You get tired, you make mistakes, things break. So all of those three areas, which have lots of areas in them, go to make up your decision about where you go, and you can have backup plans, but you're always being aware on your journey of what's going on. So being aware of yourself and how you feel and how your friends feel, and just, you know, generally what's going on around you is super important to keep yourself safe and so you get the best riding done as well.
We are getting a little bit tight in time if kids.
Okay, so well,
want to wrap up.
I will finish up with 5 top tips then if I can. Yeah.
Great, fantastic.
Yeah. So I guess be prepared. So all that stuff that I've talked about, you need to learn it. So you'll learn it in the next webinars, you'll learn it in courses, you'll learn it on books. Get yourself fit, get fit for the season. Those are all be prepared things, yeah? To get the most out of your days when time's precious. Don't follow tracks. So this is a classic one we've always said in ski touring and splitboarding and getting out into the backcountries. If you blindly follow other people's tracks, you can get into trouble because you don't know what the snow's going to be like. But don't follow tracks from Facebook. Don't follow tracks from the social media as well, because you don't know the full story from a picture. A picture of someone skiing a gully, a picture of someone being out on a really good day might not be what's happening when you're out. So don't just blindly follow what other people are up to online as well. Love learning, learn about getting a course, go on one of our courses at G2, go on the Lodge courses, go on the Avi Geeks, learn about Avalanche. Get on YouTube. There's some great stuff on YouTube. There's Avi Sabi from Jones Snowboards at the moment. There's White Lines. I've got a bunch of really good videos at the moment. And Ortovox and BCA, the manufacturers of probes and shovels and things, transceivers, they've got some really good info on YouTube. And a big shout out has to be for the Be Avalanche Aware app. So if you're using apps on your phones, the Be Avalanche Aware from the Avalanche service is a great one. It's got all the things I've just talked about in there in an educational, as well as all the forecasting that you need to know. And two more then, if I've got time. Choose your partners wisely, get to know people. You're going out and making decisions together, you're looking after each other. So ask them questions, have you checked the avalanche forecast? What's happened? Have you got all your kit with you? Actually, top tip is get them to show you how they put their probe together. Okay, let's get our probes out, show you putting the probes together, show your transceiver going into search, let's have a practice. If people are fumbling with the basic things like that, you need to train a little bit more. You might just choose your day a little bit differently to do a bit of training. And I guess a nice one to finish on is enjoy the uphill. Enjoy the whole journey getting out there, because you're going to spend about 90% of your time going uphill when you're outdoors. So you need to love the mountains. You need to love being out there and immersing yourself in it, so you can get out and get great days like this. This is Johnny Barr. Shout out to Johnny Barr, who I think's watching, who runs the Up Battle. Okay, so get out there, enjoy the whole journey, because it's about being in the mountains with your friends and having a good time, and then enjoying the whole experience. Sounds like a nice place to stop it, Ewan.
It does, yeah. Sorry to cut in there. Thanks very much, Kev. That's really fantastic, and it's really good to come around and have that practical advice from your experience delivered. I think that's a really great way to round it off, and especially the point that we were all making decisions as we're out in the backcountry, but for you to come in and really highlight those three components of conditions, terrain, and people, and then your 5 top tips there. That's really fantastic, and I think we're going to have to try and harness that and get that up on our website, because that's really great stuff. So thanks very much, Kev. We are overrunning. This has been really fantastic, and so I'm actually just going to ask if Lesley could just come in and just wrap up all the themes, if I can unmute her. I'm also doing so. I really welcome any comments in the chat of just of how this has been, any suggestions, or just what you've appreciated. I think it would be fantastic. But yeah, over to you, Lesley.
There's just one question from Graham in the chat. I think this is Kevin. You're definitely one for you. As well as a map and a compass, how useful is a GPS with mapping?
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's absolutely useful. I mean, I actually use it on my phone quite a lot. I've got a phone that lasts a long time on the battery, so I will use my GPS occasionally, but I don't want to run down the batteries. If you've got a standalone, that's great. A lot of people use them, but what you need to know is you need to know how to navigate with your map and compass as a backup. You also need to know how your GPS works. So can you follow that in a whiteout and avoid cliffs and whatever you need to know? So totally useful things. Don't rely on them because they're battery powered. Always have a map as well. Yeah, and a compass.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm just in awe of the great experiences and the great stories and practical advice that all the ambassadors have given. I'll really briefly sum it up from some of my impressions just through words that I've written down as I've been listening. There's the reading the forecasts, the finding the snow, the finding the conditions, the connection to friends, to nature, to self, to the environment, the accessible adventure,
collaboration, learning, opportunity, the power of a scene, a group of friends, a feeling of home, passion, community, creativity, life as a journey, traveling together, stories, people-powered adventures, pushing limits, taking on the fear, reading the mountains to get experience, to never regret a day in the mountains. I think there's so much in there, from the really technical advice, or the really practical, advice from Kevin, and the you know, all of us really encouraging you to educate yourself, know as much as you can. You can't know too much. You can't learn too much about the safety side of the touring, of all touring aspects. But don't let that put you off. Take it on at your own level. Take it on with friends and enjoy it. We're lucky to have the environment we do. Thanks, Snowsport Scotland and Ewan. I look forward.
Well, no, thanks very much, and I think, Lesley, you really captured it there. And a big thank you to all the ambassadors for coming on and everyone for watching. And just briefly, if I may, as I mentioned, this is the first of 4 webinars. The next one is Backcountry Essentials with Andy Townsend from Glenmore Lodge, which is our national outdoor training centre, and that's on the 7th of January. 7 p.m. again, and then following on from them, we'll be engaging with Mark Diggins from the Scottish Avalanche Information Service, and they're also in January, but dates have yet to be confirmed. But please get ready for them. They should be great and really informative experts in their field. But again, thanks to all our ambassadors, and thanks for everyone attending. Appreciate it.